I don't have the luxury of being able to lose my and get away with it. Mixed race people are more in touch with their culture when their mum's black. Meghan Markle does represent black people to an extent. However, she is... Hello everyone, how are we? I hope you're well, safe, hydrated, well rested, and everything in between. For those of you who do not know me, I mean, I've been in the game for a minute. You lot need to switch up, but like, better late than never, right? Right? For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jord, and this is my podcast, The Winning Side. And for those of you who do know me, it's so nice to see you. Did you miss me? I missed you. And all of that. Yeah. Happy Tuesday? Happy Tuesday. This wasn't intentional, this all black at all. I'm running out of clothes. I feel like I'm becoming a bit of an outfit repeater. Have you seen that? Remember that iconic scene in the Lizzie McGuire movie where Kate catches on to Lizzie wearing something that she's worn before and she's like, Lizzie McGuire, you're an outfit repeater. That's how I feel. Jord Hellwood, you are an outfit repeater. So this is literally all I have. I feel like when I walked into the studio, everyone was like, oh my God, who the hell is that? You're looking trade. Unintentionally, non-intentionally trade. But yes, welcome back. It's nice to meet you. It's nice for you to join me on this wonderful day. Thank you for taking your time to talk to me. I want to have a conversation around the discourse and the debate about whether or not are mixed race people seen as black. Now, just to make it clear, I am talking specifically people who are half black and half white. Obviously, mixed race can account for a lot of different other variations and mixes. However, I feel like it's fair to say that the black and white mixed race identity is the one that seems to be the most globalized, most recognized, and the one that causes the most dispute. Yeah, so my conversation will be surrounded around that, examples, experiences, and all of that. Thank you for joining the ride. Let's go. Let's define it. So mixed race people who are mixed race are referred to or seen as people who are two or more races. You know, like I said already, primarily the predominant mixed race group tends to be people who are half black and half white. You know, context, obviously, I'm half black, I'm half white. My mum's Jamaican, my dad is British. Yeah. Do you know, this conversation isn't really a debate, I guess. I mean, it is a debate, but it's ongoing. You know, I've been doing podcasting for 5 years and it was a debate then, it was a debate now. I think obviously when the BLM movement came into place, that really opened up conversations about mixed raceness and where mixed race people should be positioned within the black community. And I feel like there is no right or wrong answer. You know, we should acknowledge and appreciate everyone's experiences and everyone's perspectives, you know, and hands up when I say this, what I will acknowledge and appreciate is, as someone who is mixed, as someone who is light-skinned, I am never going to experience the same hardship and the same issues as a dark-skinned person, you know. We can appreciate and we can acknowledge that people who are mixed or light-skinned have issues because they still are black and people of colour. However, we need to appreciate that, the way in which, unfortunately, our society is built and the way the system has been processed, people who are dark-skinned, and particularly women, particularly black dark-skinned women, are the ones who suffer the most, you know? We're never going to, realistically, we're never going to have the same issues and experiences as people who are dark-skinned. And I think when I see people who are mixed and light-skinned who victimize themselves, when they don't acknowledge and appreciate how they are actually sufficiently more privileged than those who are dark-skinned, I genuinely can't even entertain it. I just have to push it to the side because I'm going to say things that aren't cute, and I've worked too hard to build this for it to be taken down from that. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that first. I tried to go back and figure out a date of when the first recorded mixed race person was, because obviously the not progress, but the increase in mixed race identities and interracial relationships is still a recent thing, you know? My parents met in the 1990s, and I don't think my mum will mind me saying this. She said to me, and context, my mum and both her sisters are all in interracial relationships or have mixed race children. So it's quite a common pattern for the women in my family. You know, that's all I've ever known from that side anyway. And my mum did say to me once, because obviously, I mean, Caribbean people can be quite traditional and all of that. And my mum has said to me before, she would be really intrigued to see what her mum would have been like if she had have met my dad 10 years prior. So obviously I was born in 99, I'm 27, and my parents met in 96 or 97. But I think my mum said to me, she was like, I'd be so intrigued to know how it would have went down if it had been 10 years prior or 5 years prior or whatnot, you know, because it's still, you know, with regards to history and context, it's still quite a recent thing. But yeah, I tried finding a date, but I wasn't really having much luck. But I think a noticeable period when there was a high increase of mixed race children and identities and what's the word? I don't know what the word is. I was going to say creations, but it's not creations. Was during the 20th century, you know, when we had the development of troops, African-American men coming to England and creating these relationships with English women over, like, I believe the statistics of that over 2,000 babies were born. And a lot of them ended up in care because realistically, a lot of these women didn't know how to and didn't want to look after these mixed race children, you know, which then led to more issues within adoption agencies and stuff, because a lot of people, it's very 50-50. A lot of people didn't want to adopt mixed race children of color, black children, because I don't want to say I get it, but like, I guess it's a sign of the times, right? Because I think a lot of the time, especially when you have like a traditional mindset, when you adopt a child, you want them to be able to blend in as your own. You know, you don't want them to be seen as not part of your family, even though they are. And obviously, like, blood can only stretch so far, right? But I think obviously if you are a white family with a clearly visible black child, it's apparent and it's obvious that that child is not biologically yours, you know? Care homes and foster homes didn't want to take in mixed race children. I mean, even if we run back to the slave trade, a lot of white men would have sex with these black women, again, creating these mixed race children, then leading to other issues. But I don't want to give too much of a history lesson because I don't actually know that much on it. That was all I had. But yeah, we have the black troops conceiving with these white women, and then we also have like white slave owners having sex with these black slaves who are women, you know? Like I said before, this isn't about giving a single answer, you know? It's about how identity can be read. It's about how identity can be assigned and experienced differently depending on context. You know, this is a personal reflection. This is not applicable to every single mixed race person across the board. This is my opinion, my thoughts, what I've experienced, you know? If you like, this doesn't apply to everyone. So I guess if we like start with like self-identification, do you know what though? I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I didn't really deep race for a long time, you know? It was never really like, you know how like some people have it where like race is their everything and it's their identity and it's their personality, which I actually have no issue with. I'm like, do you know what? Especially if you're marginalized, why looking at you sideways a little bit. But like okay, well, British white anyway. But if like that is how you rep yourself, do you know what? Big up you. But I think for a long time, I really didn't, you know, I just kind of blended in. And I think as a mixed race person, people find it really weird when you say your mum's black. Like people just find it bizarre. And like, it's weird to me because black women with white men for a long time is all I knew. Do you know what I mean? Like my mum's black, my aunties are black with white men. You know, I think the intention is a bit different. I feel like it seems like black men are with women for status. It feels like black men are with women for superiority, you know? I don't think that's the case for black women. I think for black women, if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like because black men haven't treated black women the way in which they deserve to be, I think white men has been their alternative, to be completely honest. I think a lot of black women switched up or decided to go to white men because there was more safety with them, you know? And especially when we are in a culture where it just seems to be very prominent that like black men will always prioritize white women. And obviously this isn't the case for everyone. Some black women may just prefer white men, but that just seems to be what I've seen. And because I'm from somewhere which is very white dominated, I am the representation of black people for a lot of people, right? And obviously like as a light-skinned person, as a Caribbean person, like repping for such a big community is quite, I wouldn't say difficult, but like I was always told that I didn't match what a black person should be like. You know, that was always the thing. Like, like everyone said that I spoke white. Everyone said that I acted white. And I don't know. I think because my mum has always been very good at trying to keep me safe. You know, I think my mum has always, in a subtle way, tried to communicate to me strategies to be safe, you know, to not draw attention to myself, to not cause any ruckus, you know, even though like I don't always deep brace. I think subconsciously as a child, it was made aware to me very clearly at young that like my experience isn't the same to my white classmates. My experience is not the same as my white counterparts, you know. I don't have the luxury of being able to lose my and get away with it. I don't have the luxury of being able to make noise and cause a ruckus and cause a scene. I was always very timid. My mum has always been my mum and my grandmother have always been very had a lot of emphasis on manners. You know, people always say to, and this isn't a flex, but people always say to me, they're like, you are honestly like, and I don't mean this to sound like a flex, honestly, but people always compliment my manners. Even as a 27-year-old, everyone's like, you are so polite, you are so well mannered. And I don't, obviously, like, I feel like parents, no matter what race you are, should teach you about manners. But I do feel like my mum made an extra emphasis on it, because I think even if you have subconscious thoughts about me, you know, I'm well-mannered. You know, I feel like sometimes when you are around people that are anti-black, they'll do anything to attack or to come for you, you know. So I think I was preconditioned to always be well-mannered, because I thought, you actually can't come for me. Or like my mum's thinking, they can't come for my kids because they are really well-mannered people. As a black mixed race person, I would say that I see myself as black. Like, obviously, like, I'm not like naive or delulu. Obviously, like, I know that I'm mixed race, but like, I don't know. I feel like, and I don't want to take away the experience or the credit of any dark-skinned black person, but when you're in this culture, you know, and like, if things were to ever go south, I am seen as a black person, you know. I don't know whether that's because of what I've grown up in, or what I've been around, or how I've been treated. I don't know if that would still be the case if I was around more black people. You know, if I was around more black people and like fully black people, yeah, I don't know if I would have felt differently that way. I see myself as a mixed race person because I feel like the environments I've been in, I tend to be the only black person, you know. I'm the only black person in my friendship group from home. I'm the only black person in my friendship group from uni. You know, I have black friends now who are mixed and black. They all refer to me as a black person, but obviously it's very subjective, you know, and I'm never going to diminish or take that away. However, what I will say is that I feel like as a mixed race person who sees themselves as black, sometimes I want to be really careful how I say this, because like, even though like I want to like rep my blackness all the time, I need to appreciate and recognize that my dad is white, right? And not even just that my dad is white. I also want to like appreciate how like my dad is very present. You know, my dad's very active. I think things would be a bit different if I had like a deadbeat dad. If I had a dad that just wasn't interested, didn't want to know, then I think it would be more logical for me to like rep my blackness, you know, like 100%. But like, I feel like sometimes it can be a bit of a disservice to my dad to only go on about my blackness. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, okay, like I am a black man, like inevitably, yeah, like I know that my dad knows that, even though like I'm never trying to like rep whiteness or anything like that. But my dad is white, you know, and he's a contributor. He's always been present. He's always been there. If he was a deadbeat, the situation would be very different, you know? And I want to try and find the balance of like being a black man with like a white dad who is very present and very there. That's my white king. That's the only white king I'll ever have. Yeah, I see myself as a black person. I'm the only black person in my workplace. I think in environments like work, online, my friendship groups, I'm always viewed as the black person, which is really interesting because my family don't see me as black. I think my dad does, we haven't really had this conversation for a while because I think it just gets quite heated, but my mum will always say to me, she's like, but Jordan, like, Jord, you're mixed race. And I try to explain to him, like, but mum, get what I'm trying to say here. If like, God forbid, if slavery came for like a next round, yeah, do you really think I'm going to be with the whites? Do you know what I mean? Do you really think that's going to be the case? I don't think so. I think maybe I identify more with my black side than my white side because my mum is black, right? I feel like mixed race people, for the most part, are more in touch with their culture when their mum's black. You know, naturally, for the most part, a person's mum is their primary caregiver. You know, my mum is mine, has always been. Having a black mum has made me appreciate black culture more. I think it's made me have a deeper appreciation for black women. I see a lot of mixed race men with white mums that really do not appreciate black culture and really do not appreciate black women. And I feel like that is kind of picked up from that black dad, you know? I think black women probably have different approaches to being a parent compared to black dads. I don't have a black dad though, so like I actually can't comment, but like from my presumption. But no, I think like you can tell, like people say to me all the time, like, oh, mixed black mum, we can tell, you know. I think mixed race people with black mothers appreciate black culture more. I think they appreciate black women more. I think they see things very differently, you know. I think having a black mother switches your perspective. I think it really does. I think it makes you look at things very differently in comparison to having a white mum, you know. You see a lot of mixed race people going through this identity crisis because, with due respect, their white mum isn't able to cater to them with regards to their culture and heritage the same way a black mother can, you know? And obviously this isn't the case for like every like mixed person with a white mum. I know some amazing white women with mixed race children that have done the absolute most to ensure that their child is very in touch with culture, you know? But I do think if you put them side to side, I think if you compare someone who is mixed with a black mum and a white mum, I do think the distinctions are very present for the most part, you know? And obviously, like, this may not apply to you. And if it doesn't apply to you, you actually don't need to get funny. I'm just saying what I've observed, you know? There's also this idea of like how you should like pick a side, you know? And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this conversation can be like really tedious because I feel like, do you know what it is? That I feel like sometimes it depends on visibility because like you have like mixed race people, right? Who like are very clearly mixed race. Like I feel like I look mixed race, right? I get told sometimes, I remember when I first started doing content, I would talk about like black issues and everyone would be like in the comments, who is this Asian boy talking about black issues? Who does he think he is? Why is Mr. Bean talking about black issues? Who does he think he is? I'm like, oh, gag. But like, I know mixed race people who are significantly lighter than me, you know, and I know mixed race people who are significantly darker than me. If we're being completely honest, I think colorism contributes to like the biggest issues within the black community, if we're being completely honest, not like the mixed race discourse. And I say that because I'm a mixed race person, right? A black mum and a black dad, yeah, sound. I have black friends that are the same shade as me, if not lighter, and I have mixed race friends that are darker than me. And I feel like I don't think the issue or the disruption should be on the basis of like being black enough, being white enough for that. I genuinely think it's on colorism, right? Because realistically, if you see a mixed race person, yeah, who is significantly darker than you, you are not going to be giving them ruckus. You're not going to be giving them ruckus for not claiming their white side or for not claiming mixed race because they're darker, you know? Same for the lighter ones. Like, I've met black people, yeah, who are like lighter than me, like fully black people. I think like, and I see it online a lot where people get really annoyed saying, oh, like mixed race people need to rep being mixed. And yeah, they do to an extent, right? But I feel like that energy would not be provided and given if the mixed race person you're talking about is significantly dark enough to be perceived as a fully black person, if you will, or if a black person was light enough to be seen as a light-skinned person, you know? I just feel like we need to find like a midpoint. I feel like we need to find like an in-between. And with that being said, it's very much like, do you embrace culture? Do you dive into culture? You know, do you rate culture? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of like, and like black or mixed, there's a lot of people in our community that really do not like rep the culture, you know? And then at that point, it's like, so what now? What next? Do Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we should be able to claim who should and who should not be able to validate their blackness, you know? I think there's elements which contribute to you repping it more. And there's also the idea about like whether or not, well, the question, are black people included in spaces? Like, I mean, okay, like I said, like my mum's black, yeah. Obviously, like, when the only family dues I ever go to are with my black family, you know, the Caucasians don't want to know. Obviously, Dad, I love you, Dad. But the Caucasians they don't want to know. They don't want to know, you know. Again, like, why would I not want to be more in touch with my black side when my black family members want to spend time with me? I don't. And to be fair, can I just make this clear? I don't think this is a race thing. I don't think this is a racing with the family. I just don't think that side want to do stuff, which is fair. But like for the most part, I've always been welcomed with open arms into black spaces and black communities, you know. When I go out, I only really tend to go to events and spaces which are black catering, you know, and I'm always recognized and appreciated as a black person. You know, I'm a content creator. I've been doing content for 5 years. Jesus, that's a long time. But I've only been taking it seriously for like 2, so it doesn't count. But yeah, I've been doing content for 5 years. And every time I'm in a black club, someone will come up to me and tell me how much they love my stuff, you know. And my content is primarily like black and queer issues, you know. And that is like that's my recognition, you know, that's my reference point. I think a lot of mixed race people have used their blackness to build a brand or to monetize. Guilty as charged. You know, I think a lot of mixed race people have used that strategy, and I'm not mad about it. Like, do you know what? Like, if you rep culture and you're trying to create a space for people, black across the board, go ahead. I think I'm looking a bit sideways because I've met people who create a lot of volume and a lot of noise about doing so and so for the black community, but like, it's very much a persona. That isn't the energy you have offline. I remember so well meeting someone who I thought was great. I remember meeting someone who I thought was amazing, yeah. Really vocal about, a mixed race person, very vocal about black issues and black rights. And the energy just was not the same when the camera was turned off. And I remember thinking, Jesus, facade. But like, there's so many mixed race people that have like, used their blackness to create a brand or to create an image. And I'm not mad about it, you know, like as long as the intentions are good and they're sincere, what's the problem? But I think we need to be mindful and appreciative that like, I think we should use our privilege to help others, you know. If we aren't repping all black people, I'm not interested, you know. Maybe there are opportunities in my career which I've had, which may have not been given the same allowance to with black people, fully black people either, you know, but I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that we all have an equal amount of opportunity, you know. That's why I build what I build. That's why I have what I have, because I refuse to live in a world where I am not trying to contribute to making every black person be seen and heard, you know. Yes, mixed race can be classed and seen and referred to as being black, but like, it's not the full vision. It's not the full picture. And I remember really well, yeah, when Mimi and Josh won Love Island, the first black women, yeah. And then people in the comments were saying, oh, what about Amber Gill? And Whitney was saying, love Amber, but like, she's mixed, light skin. She does not represent people across the board. But you have to be mindful. You really, really have to be mindful. I would say that I feel included. Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I don't know if that's just because of who I roll with. And again, like I said to you before, I am the one representation of blackness for a lot of people, you know, like unintentionally, you know, like I live somewhere where there isn't many black people. So I just kind of like naturally fell into that space without even really having a choice. And I do say to my friends, I'm like, my experience of blackness is very different to so many other people. You know, I live in like a relatively nice middle class area. I guess I probably have access to a lot more things than a lot of people do. And I don't mean that in a like, look at me, look at you type of way. It's just more like, it's a reality, you know? I can remember this really well. I remember, so obviously I don't live in London. I work in London, but I don't live here. And I can remember really well being gobsmacked about how people in London didn't own houses, which is obviously really stupid and really naive, but I just couldn't get my head around it. I could not get my head around how people didn't own houses, which is a real luxury. You know, I've always been around parents and family members that own property, and I just didn't get it, right? Obviously, that was my privilege, like really like being a bit of a dickhead, but it was just like absurd to me. I just didn't get it, you know, and I had to give myself a reality check and be like, do you know what? As someone who doesn't have a house and probably won't for a long time, like buying a house is a lot of money, like a lot of money. Belonging to the Black community as a mixed race person, it's not always about permission. Sometimes it's about recognition. I want to like refer to like pop culture and like the media landscape, right? Because I feel like it's really interesting how sometimes we pick and choose people, celebrities who are deemed as mixed race and who are, or who are deemed as Black and who isn't. I think the first example that comes to mind is Meghan Markle. Now, obviously, Meghan Markle is one of the most famous people in the world, right? For when the engagement was announced for Prince Harry and Meghan, like the conversation was very much like, oh my God, the first Black in the royal. Meghan Markle does represent Black people to an extent. However, she is, not only is she mixed race, she is incredibly light. She is incredibly light, you know? I can appreciate the frustration. And I always think to myself, the way that she has been treated, I can't even imagine how a dark-skinned woman would be treated, you know? I think she's white passing, you know? I was genuinely disgusted at how she was treated within the space. And then when you hear these conversations going on about how they were curious to see how dark her child would be, and I'm not being funny, she is as light as anything. That child was never going to be dark. That child was never going to be dark. But it's just like the cheek and the nerve to be able to speak to someone like that. Do you know what I mean? And I can't even imagine how that would have landed with someone who was darker. We also have, like, I mean, other prominent people in the space. Like, I think Drake's a good example, yeah? Like, Drake obviously gets referred to as a culture vulture quite a lot. And to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I kind of see it. What exactly has Drake done for culture, right? What exactly has Drake done for culture? Like, yes, okay, he is probably one of the most successful rappers that we have ever seen. Do you get it? But like, what does he actually do? And I remember when people were like jumping to his defense when Kendrick made all this noise saying, oh, culture vulture, oh, fake black man and all that. And like, obviously, like, I don't want to talk bad on any mixed race person yet, but like, I do kind of think like, I feel like Drake pick and chooses when he wants to rep culture. And I think you also, as a mixed race person, you kind of have that luxury of being able to like jump back and forth, yeah? Drake slides into culture when it suits him. Drake slides into culture when he sees a check or when it benefits him, yeah? He's not on it full stop. There's other mixed race people in the space that are very different and are always projecting and like providing a voice for Black people. J. Cole's a great example. Love J. Cole. J. Cole has done the most for Black people. You know, he's always represented. He's done so much for the community. What does Drake actually do that doesn't benefit himself? Everything's an ulterior motive with Drake, you know? It is like kind of like embarrassing to be light-skinned nowadays. And that's not me like having shame about being mixed race or being light-skinned or anything like that. But like, when we've got man like HS Tiki Toki and Andrew Tate doing the most, it doesn't paint a very good picture for the rest of us. Like, I remember, right, when like, it was like 2017, Controller was on all radio stations and like, it wasn't embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could kind of like, just like flow and just go with it. But like, I'm genuinely embarrassed, right? And like, no issue being mixed race, no issue being light skin. That's not what it is. But I just feel like the people who are mixed race or light skin in our community that seem to create the most traction are like just drips. They're just absolute drips. And you can't help but look at other people sideways thinking, oh, are they a bit like that? You know, like, why can't the biggest mixed race people in media like not be wet sacks? Why can't we just have people that like do the most, that rep our community, that, do you know what I mean? But I feel like when it is led by misogyny and homophobes and just these really awful, twisted, backwards men, it's not looking cute for the rest of us, to be honest. Maybe the more useful question isn't, are mixed race people seen as Black? Maybe it should be more like, where and by whom are seen that way, and what does that change? You know, that being environments, workspaces, media, you know. I think as a mixed race person, you have to appreciate and acknowledge your privileges, you know, like you have to. I just think it's silly not to. But I also want to acknowledge the hardship. Like I said, I'm like the only black person for a lot of people. I was the only black person in a lot of my classes. But it only really became apparent when like race became an issue or when I became aware of race. You know, I remember being picked on really badly when I was about 11 or 12 because of my afro hair. I remember it really well. And I think that was the first realization where I was like, oh, I'm different. And because there was very few black people around me, I wasn't able to have those conversations and those acknowledgements. And even like my mum's environment growing up was very different. You know, she had like a lot of black relatives around her age. She had black classmates. So even though I had her to confide in, she, to a certain level, just wouldn't get it, you know? And that's not her fault. That's not her fault, but it's just the way it is. And I think it kind of, it just makes you think differently. And I wouldn't say I'm glad it happened, but I think it kind of helped me. I think it made me grow up a lot quicker, you know? It made me grow up a lot quicker. I guess you can argue either side, like, are black people seen as mixed from your own interpretation, you know? Like, let's rep our blackness and let's appreciate it. But let's also remember that there are other people who are darker or who are different, who deserve the space as much as us. You know, growing up somewhere white dominated definitely contributed to that. But like now I'm exposed to so much more, there's no reason as to why my mind can't switch. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you so much for watching. I actually feel like I don't know if I made much sense. I don't know if I made much sense, but I guess we'll find out when I get the edit back. My name is Jord Harewood. This is the Winning Side podcast. Thank you so much for watching this conversation. I appreciate it so much. I'm here all the time. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you soon. Try not to miss me, baby.